welcome you to this special laboratory lecture on using Unity to get some immersion of climate influence on our world. As you can see here on the left side, this is part of the master course Global Customer Processes, which I give during this year 2022 in our lecture of Mechanical Engineering and Production. We have in our faculty the concept One World Engineering from our Dean, Dr. Thomas Flower. And the main idea is that engineers should take more responsibility to solve the climate challenges to reach the UN goals of sustainability. Of course, climate change is not the only thing, so we have also tackled the other goals, but here I've given a little example, and it's an example which just should give you a chance to realize your own solutions in Unity. So it is a first step. However, I think a lot of functionality can be used from you also in your own environment. I have done this in 3 sections, ABC. The first section is already done, and I have explained you, and I think you all did understand very well. Now I will explain the second section B, in which we will build a factory which is smoking, and from its chimney with black smoke, and we have some nice grass on the ground, and we have a second player who is standing on an island. And also on the next step, we will have here in step 11 a possibility to switch the factory on and off. And if we switch on the factory, there will be black steam coming out of the chimney. And we will have, of course, some nice light. The light will be switched on. And however, this will be not the nice thing only what's happening, but there will be also some bad. The island is flooded because the water level is rising. And you can see this, and you can also walk with the person through the island and through the water. And of course, at the beginning, the water is not very deep, but at the end, you would not be able to walk through it. Otherwise, only maybe you can swim. When we can switch off the factory and there will be no smoke, the lamps, of course, will stop shining and the water level stays constant. We can increase the wind strength, and when we increase the wind strength, the windmill shall start to turn. Here, a very simple representation of a windmill, and at this moment, the lamps will shine again. If we decrease the wind, the lamps will go out, and we will have some little bit information also on the screen, also the controlling elements from the canvas on the screen so that you can control this. You can also reset the setting so that you can start again, and also if you, for example, walk through this environment, you can immerse also the water level increase. You can go through the water when it is not so deep and meet the person who's standing at the second light, and then watch with this person how the water level is rising when you switch on the factory, and so on and so on. And this is also with a simulation of the wind, which you can see with the palms. The palms are moving when the wind is stronger, and this all shall be realized. And I will show you how to do this. Okay, this is first section. Okay, let us now start to understand how we realize this function. We start here with point 9, a factory with bricks and smoking chimney. So when we start this, we want to build a factory. To go to this, we go outside here a little bit and try to find a place here where we can put an empty game object. This is, by the way, a little trick. If you do this with a game object, you can more easily organize the object. So just have an empty game object, call it factory2, and then under this game object, we put and we have this cube now, and look where it is. You see the cube is there somewhere here, and the factory is somewhere there in a very high position, and we want to have this in an area like there, and of course not so high. We want to have it in 0 and in the X position, and then we can say, okay, this makes a little bit sense. We go to our factory, we click on the cube, and then we are in this area and see that the cube is in the ground. So we have to put it up a little bit. And now we can go out with the scroll of our mouse. And now we will do a rescale. I can click on this one here and do a little rescale, make it a little bit longer. And now if I want to have a nice texture, we can do very easy thing to do this. For example, I did yesterday some pictures, and as you can see here, some pictures like grass or floor and so on, and also some brick pictures. And all you have to do is to go into your project folder, the material environment, and there we have the possibility to move our object inside. So the image I just moved from the controller inside. As you can see here, I've done this before, so there are a little bit more now. Doesn't matter. I just give different numbers, different names. And you can see here, this is a picture. And now I give the different name. And now we cannot directly move this here on. You see this is not working. If I just move it there, I just have to make material. This material now is, we call wall 3. And what we will do is we now move the new texture, which we have as a texture of our material in this field here of Albedo. And there I put it like this. And now we have a material which has this texture, and we can now move the material on our object. You see, it's looking a little bit funny because so large bricks, because each picture is on one side only, and you can see this here, tiling 1, 1. If we increase the tiling, then you can see it's getting more realistic. Also, if I do it like this, and now we have a wall, which is pretty nice. And if you imagine I do small walls now, then it could look like a nice building. And in this way, you can do a lot of things and implement all these things. This is pretty easy. So next thing we do is we build a chimney. And to build this chimney, we just go on the bricks here on this chimney, so on the cube, and do duplicate. And with this duplicate, now we have the possibility to have the double element. We do again our rescale, and as you can see, I have in a very, very easy way, I can make a chimney. Now we want to have this chimney with a smoke. To get a smoke, we have the advantage that we already downloaded the standard assets from the asset store of Unity, and here the standard assets have some particle system. In the particle systems, the prefabs, there you have the smoke, and now I directly move the smoke to the second cube we have here, and now you can see, oh, where is the smoke? Look in the transform, and you see the smoke is in a little bit funny position, so we have to reset it, and then you see, there is the smoke, and now we have the smoke in a position inside of the chimney. It would be nicer if we have it at the top. This we can change just with the Y value. I put it here, and now I think for today it's okay. You can change, I would say, nearly 100 elements here, but this smoke is already a pretty nice thing done, and we have now a smoke, and as you can see, we can go to the smoke. This smoke has an attribute, a component particle systems, and in this particle system we can switch the smoke on and off, and what we don't want is that the smoke is playing on a wake here on the wake, because we want our smoke to be switched on and off later on. So how do we do this switching on and off? For this we are going back to the factory I made before, and in this factory we have similar environment. Here is this factory, all is the same. I just renamed this cube, I renamed this cube, and we have here the smoke, and as you see, it's very similar. And however, how can we do this now? We go in our climate control, and now we have to look at our script. For the script, we go here, and as you can see on the top, we have implemented or downloading or using libraries, and added only one additional, which is not standard, which is the UI. With this UI, we can have directly a relation to a toggle, and this toggle component here we have as a private variable toggle with the name tog1. I put it as a private so that you can get a second way of referencing to objects. All the others are public variables. This has the advantage that when we look later in our inspector of the climate control, and there the script here, the script component, which is also just a component, then you can see directly all our public variables, which I can change. I can click on them, delete them, and put another one inside, or I can change here the number if it is a float number. So all these elements here, all these elements are done giving us a reference inside of the script to an object. So if we, for example, take this one out and I delete it, click on it and make delete, then it's gone. Then there is no reference now at this point. I need a reference. To do this, I just go to the object I want to reference, click on it, move it inside, and there it is. And also very nice is when this is a wind, for example, and this which we will see later on, this is a wind, or when it is a toggle or whatever, then only a toggle or wind type would be allowed here, depending on what we have defined inside of our script. So now in this case, we have here the toggle1 as a private value, and we have not seen it in the public variables because we find it in a different way. We have here in the start position, which is executed at the beginning of Unity, we have a toggle1, which is the Gameobject.Find, so it's finding a game object, and you have here the name. And so what it does is it looks inside Unity to find an object with this name. If it does not find, it gives us an error. And if it finds this object, we say here, do apply a function of this object, which is getComponent, meaning getting the component of this object. And we can say which type of component it should look for. A type is toggle, because we want to get a toggle. And now we must put the two parentheses because it's a function. Even though there are no parameters, we need this parenthesis to show that it's a function and that the ending sign of C#. So we have this now, this function. Then we have here in talk1 the reference to the toggle. So we can easily now say toggle1 is on equals to false to set it to false. So if we look at this talk1 dot, and now we see that it is already suggesting something. All this with this asterisk here are the ones where it says, oh, I'm sure you want to know. And but we want to have only this on is on. As you can see on the left side here, we have the attributes, and here these are changes. Here are the methods, for example, and things like this. Here on the top, you can see this methods, some operators, and things like this. So what we have is on, and the suggestion is very much click on it, and then you have it like this. Then you can say now, okay, I have it. So we have now this toggle1, we check it that it is false. Then we have the smoke one stopped, and now we have to look what smoke is. If we go to smoke here, we see we have defined a public variable particle system smoke1. We look again here in our script. There we see the public variable named smoke1. And here we have the smoke1, and what is it? It's of course the smoke of our chimney. Don't be confused. Unity tries to write this nice. So if you have a number somewhere, it puts a little space between. This is not the correct name. It is also starting with a small s. So inside of your script, be careful. It must be smoke1 like this. If you write it like this outside here, inside, you would get problems. So now what we have is that we can say, if we have this toggle here, and you can see here the toggle inside of our panel. If we have this toggle here, you can now switch on and off the toggle. And what it will do, it will go inside of this function and execute a function here, factory on off. How is this now referenced? If we look in the toggle, here this toggle, and we go to factory on off, then we go here, this is the attribute toggle, and then you see here is on, now it is not on, but here on the ground you see on value changed. And here we have a reference to our script, climate, and also you have here the function which we want to be executed when we click on the toggle. So if we go on this, we see here things, and there we have climate control, and there are the functions related to this, and we have here a function factory on off. This function we will now look at. Here we have this function factory on off. What does it do? It checks if the toggle is on equals to false, so it is off. Then it stops the smoke, and otherwise it will play and start the smoke. So smoke 1, you remember, is the smoke from the particle system, and we can say stop and play. So this is a very easy way to stop and start the smoke based on our toggle. I have a little bit addition also in this one here, which also switch on this smoke, stops the smoke also in the case in the update function to ensure that if we do not click on this element, it will also be switched off if the toggle element is not activated. And to do this, we have introduced here in the update function, if toggle is on false, then smoke off also stop. So this means every 30th part of a second is this checking so that the smoke is already switched off also at the beginning. There will be also, otherwise there will be at the beginning sometimes a problem. So now we want to have to look at this other if clause here, which says if the toggle one is on, so if we now have the smoke is running, we want to have the water to rise. How do we do this? First of all, we are having here an add clause, which says we want that this is checked, but also that the position y is lower than the max level. This means we don't want that the water goes until the air. Well, otherwise, maybe if all the poles are gone, then there is a stop of the rising of the water. So we have here an increase of the position y. So how to do this? From the water, we take the component transform. From the transform, we take the position, which is x, y, and z coordinates, and we take the y coordinate, take the value of this, and compare it to a max level, which we have defined here somewhere on top. So if we do this and have it lower than this level, then we want to have a translate. A translate, it's very easy. It just adds to the position of the transform. We are referencing here a value. And you can see it's a vector 3 with y0 and, sorry, with x0, y a special value, and then z. And as you can see in the middle here, we have a rise speed multiplied with time delta time. And now we have here a very nice thing. We could also put here, for example, 0.1, just 0.1. It would mean that every time this is executed is adding 0.1. But Unity is not able to ensure that every 30th part of a second this is executed, because sometimes the calculations take longer. So with time delta time, we get the time between two calculations. And if we multiply it with the speed, then we always get the same rise value between each movement, which makes for us, between each time. So it makes for us a smooth movement. So because sometimes when there is a longer period between two calculations, it must move more. So we have the rise speed also defined here as a public variable, so we can later easily modify it as well as the max level. So now if we have this, we can say if the position is reached, we will increase the value, and also we can say we want to have to do something with the wind. So for this, with the wind, we have to go to our windmill. So to build this windmill, it's also very easy. I go to the factory 2, and we go to this factory to make a windmill. And with this the same windmill, and we add in this the same aspect, we add a cube. We could of course also do a cylinder or whatever we want. It would be maybe nicer to have a cylinder, but I just added a cube, but doesn't matter. We go to the cylinder, and the cylinder is a bit thick. We make it a little bit thinner with the scale tool, and say now like this. And now we make, we will have a cube as the blade. So we add a cube as the blade. We also change this. And we move this a little bit outside of this thing so that it's a little bit more realistic. We can make it a little bit longer, like this, and then we can move it up so that it is here. A little bit to see what is happening there. Okay, so we put it like this. And so, ungeschickt. So, windmill. To get this a little bit more realistic, we turn this one and we can just click on the rotate tool and turn it a little bit so it looks like this. Now we want this thing to rotate, and so we go to the blade and we go to this blade, rename it maybe blade so that you can remember later easier. And now we go to the blade and go to the blade and say we have a new function, rotate 2, and this function open, and in this function now we have to define how to rotate the blade. Let us look in the function I have already made how we do this. So it's very easy. We have again defining some public variables. In the start we set a speed, and in the update function, so in the function which is executed every 30 times per second, I have put at the beginning it's just for later control which I might need, and if this flag is set to true, then I want to have a reference to the wind strength, because I want this windmill turn in the speed depending on the wind. To do this, I need a reference to our wind. Here you can see I have a public variable wind zone 1, and this public variable is later filled with our wind zone, and so I can have a reference to this here and then to the attribute wind main, and this is then the wind strength. So if I later change this wind strength with a slider, I can say, okay, if you have a different wind, I want a different rotation speed. So now we look at this here, which is a reference to the transform. I didn't put any object in front because I directly relate to the blade. And the rotate turbine is a script which is inside of this object. So I don't need to write something in front. So if I don't write something in front, it is always the object where the component is, its own object. Then I do the function rotate. It's very similar to translate. It's like rotate, translate. And here I translate around the Z coordinate and the Z coordinate, and you can easily see which coordinate you want to return. It depends how you have placed these objects. And then if you go to the blade, for example, here, and you would rotate, then you can think of what are the objects. You go like this, and then you see here, if I rotate about the Z, this would be funny in this case. I would have to rotate around be the X in this case. So this is a little bit depending on what how do you build this model. However, you can see very easy that you want here a rotation around X. But on the other, it is the other one. And so now we go to this cube and this cube here in the factory. 2. Okay, so we can delete this. We can delete this also. And now we have here our bit control. What else do we have to do as have a good function? We want now have an if statement in this update, which says if the wind is larger than 0.3, or our toggle is on. Our toggle is switching on and off the factory. So what does it say? If we have a strong wind, or if we have our factory working, then we want a specific light. And to do this light, we have here also at the top an attribute light. Where this attribute light from? It is from our lights. How did we build these lights? Here we have two lamps, one lamp, other lamp. Where are the lamps? Let me look. I have one placed on the island. On the island I have also placed a human. You can see here is a little human there standing. And we have this light. And this light is also just one cube and another cube. And on the top of this, you can see I just placed something which is here under the second cube, a so-called point light. To get this point light, you can just directly go in the light aspects here. So point light is good for having something like these lights here in the environment. So with this point light, you have to play a little bit with the range and the intensity and so on. And then you have this point light, and you can see here that is our light. And now we want to reference to this light in our function. We go on the function, and you see here is the point light 1 and the point light 2. And so we have the reference. We have just moved inside here the point lights. And then you see on the other side here that we have now the point lights here. So these point lights, which we have referenced here with the public variable, are now in the lower part here, a point light 1 intensity. You see that this intensity now is different. It is 14 when we have the wind stronger, or when we have the factory going on. By the way, this is the or sign and this is the and sign if you want to make an or in the if clause here, or an and an or in this clause. So in this case, we set the intensity high, either if the wind is strong or if the chimney is working, or if both are working, it's also strong. In the other case, it's only one, so we have no light. So that's actually what we want. Either we want the light from the windmill or the light from the chimney. And the other thing was that when the chimney is working here, then the water level is rising. So we have in this function pretty all. We have only one little other function here, which is try again. And this is just a simple button here. And if I click this button, then this function is executed, and it just resets everything so that we can start at the beginning. And this is nearly all you have to know to build this. Let us go outside now. And as you can see, we have all these elements built, the slider with the runtime from the wind zone. Here we have the slider directly related to the wind zone, wind main. And so we can, with the slider, manipulate the wind. We have later with our function referencing to the wind. And based on the wind, we do the switch on and off the lights. And what is also very nice in this environment, we have the person who can walk around. So if we start now our game, you can see that the person is in this environment here. Maybe if we click on it here, then you see the person in the editor here. This is the game view. In the editor, you see also how it a little bit more nice, how it is moving, that there is a collider, around it, that there is a camera in the background. With the camera view, you can see everything. And if we move now, we can, now we must first click on the game area, and then we can move around and explore. So here's a lot of green. You can make this, of course, much, much nicer. But this is not my game today. It's more the principles that you can start. Here we have the grass. Maybe this is a different thing. You can see this grass is moving. It is moving even though there is no wind. You can see our palms in the background are not moving. The grass is just moving by default. We have the now this was one light. We can go here and go to the palms, so on. And if we now would switch on, we can also and look what the other person is doing here. And now we can watch what is happening if we go through the water. And maybe for security reasons for this person, I would say we go up the hill here, place here on the hill, turn around a little bit when we are switching on the factory. You see the lights are on. Now we have lights, 2 lights. Water is rising, and it's rising pretty high. And you see around even us, and I stop it now. If I stop the factory, you see the smoke is stopping. I'm standing in the water now, and you can see our little island is nearly underwater. The person has already died. Maybe he can swim or she can swim, so then he would not die, of course. But it is not looking very nice, all the thing around. And we have, I would say, waited too long to switch off the factory. So we can do the try again and everything now. If we now try to switch on the factory and we see we stop it earlier, so we have a nice situation. And I even could go to my colleague on the side, and the chimney is stopped. But we want to see now our windmill, and to do this we go on this here and maybe on this hill, turn around in the nice grass here. Now we do a wind increase, and as you can see now, yes, now the light is switched on, a very, very strong light, and we have no problem with the water. The water is not rising anymore, but we have nice light directly from our windmill. If we want to watch the windmill a little bit nicer, you can go here on the hill again. Then you can see how it is turning in the background. Our chimney is off, and this is actually the little immersion, which can be changed, of course, in many, many ways. And we have no noise yet. This will be in step C. And we can give a little bit more information so that if somebody is running around there, he can find something. But I think you have got a lot of hints which can enable you to build nice environments. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon at the University of Applied Sciences in our new Studiengang Maschinenbau und Produktion, which is give lecture courses for bachelor and master students. And it's not all about climate, but a lot about it. And it's also a very good basic education on mechanical engineering, which you get, which enables you to, I would say, save the world in a quite good manner. Thank you very much.